All right, guys, so this week we are starting into Unit 8, which is factoring. So the first part here, our first objective, is just really finding factors of numbers that can add to be another number. So the first part of your notes that you want to have out says, what is a factor? So a factor is just a number of quantity that's multiplied and produces to give another number. In other words, it's a number that will divide evenly into another number. So you can check that something is a factor by dividing the number by a number. And if it comes out to be a whole number, then you know that you indeed found a factor. So here are some helpful tips for finding factors when you don't know. One, you can just divide the number you want factors of by any number. So if the answer is a whole number, then you have found two factors when you do that. So the number you divided by and the number that was the answer are your two factors. A good strategy for this is to start at 2 and then go through all the numbers in order. So if you wanted to find, let's say, the factors of 48, you would start at, well, we know 1 and 48 is always a factor, and then go to 2 and say, okay, does 2 go into 48? And it does, it goes in 24 times. And then say, does 3 go into 48? And it does, it goes in 16 times. And then you try 4 and you say, okay, that went in 12 times. You try 5 and you're like, 5 doesn't work, so you don't put that there. And then you try 6 and you see that it's 6 times 8. You try 7, you see that 7 doesn't work, and then you're back at 8. So by making your factor list the way I've done, where you're doing a 1 times 48, 2 times 24, you're finding all of the factors all at once, and it makes your life a little bit easier. So 1 in the number, always set of factors. So that's why up here I said start at 2, because 1 and 48, or 1 in the number, always a set of the factors. You can also use your divisibility rules to help. The better you are with these, the easier it is to check. So if you know that a number is divisible by 2 if it's even, then you know that 48 is even, so you could know that you needed to check 2. 3 is if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So 4 plus 8 is 12, so 12 is divisible by 3. So we know 3 goes into 48, so we can try that. Knowing that 5 only goes into numbers that end in 5 or 0 helps because you didn't have to type 48 divided by 5 in your calculator because you know it ends in 8, so 5 can't be a factor. 6 will work if it's divisible by both 2 and 3. So since 2 and 3 were in our list above, then 6 would also be in our list. 9 will work if the sum of the digits is divisible by 9. So 4 plus 8 is 12, so 12 is not divisible by 9, 9 doesn't work. And 10 is if any number that ends in 0 is divisible by 10. So 48 ending in 8 means that it's not divisible by 0. I stopped when I got to 8 because 8 was already in my list. So the list will go down and then you'll find that 8 and 6, 12 and 4, 16 and 3. So by making the list like this, we see all of our factors and we don't have to keep going. All right, so now we want to list all of the factors of these numbers. So I've made you little tables so that you can list them the way I did for 48. So for 8, you know you start at 1 and 8, and then you try 2, and you say, okay, 2 goes into it 4 times. Then you try 3, 3 doesn't work, and then you're back at 4, which you've already written down, so you're done. This will also help you later when we're factoring polynomials. So then try 24. So you have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 5 doesn't work, and then you're back at 6, so you know that you're done. Now take a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes and try and do 36 and 84. So now check your answers and make sure that you got the correct factors for 36 and 84. You won't always have these tables to go by, so it is important that you do them in order to make sure that you get through all of the factors and not just a few of them. Sometimes the factor you're missing is the one that you need. All right, so later in this unit, you're going to need to find numbers that will multiply to be a specific number and then add or subtract to be another number. So we're going to do some practice with that here. if you notice, we are multiplying to be 8, 24, 36, and 84, which were all our tables up here. So you can use that to help you. So we want to find a pair of numbers that will multiply to be 8 and then add to be 6. So we want to multiply and be 8 and then add to be 6. So when we look up at our factors of 8, we see that 1 plus 8 is 9, 2 plus 4 is 6. So 2 and 4 will be our answer here. Because 2 times 4 is 8 and 2 plus 4 is 6. Let's jump down to number 3. Now it says that it wants us to multiply to be 36 and add to be negative 13. Well, how do we multiply to be a positive number? This is where you want to remember your rules of multiplication. So when you multiply integers, if you have a positive times a positive, you get a positive. If you have a negative times a negative, you also get a positive. While if you have a positive times a negative, you will get a negative, or a negative times a positive, you will also get a negative. So if we want to multiply to be a positive number and add to be a negative number, then we need to use a negative times a negative. So when we go up and we look at our factors of 36, we're looking to see what will equal 13. And we see that 4 and 9 will add to be 13. By making them both negative, then we get our negative 13, because negative 4 plus negative 9 is negative 13. Negative 4 times negative 9 would be positive 36. Now let's look at the next one. We want to multiply to be negative 8, and we want to add to be negative 2. So when we scroll up and we look at our factors of 8, I want to get negative 2. Well, 1 and 8, if I add them, I get 9. If I subtract them, I get 7. So it can't be that set of factors. Now we look at 2 and 4. We already talked about the fact that they add to be 6, but we need to subtract them and they get 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. But I want a negative 2. So instead of being positive 4 and negative 2, I need to be negative 4 and positive 2. Because negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, and negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. The next one's just the opposite. Multiply to be negative 8 and add to be 2. So we already talked about the fact that negative 4 and 2 gives me negative 2. So if I just change it to be a positive 4 and negative 2, then I'll get positive 2 with the multiply of negative 8. Now take a few minutes and finish the rest of 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on your own, and then we'll check back. Here are the answers for the rest of those. You can always remember that you can check it back by saying, is negative 36 times 1 negative 36? And is negative 36 plus 1 negative 35? I would always think about it as adding and then just figuring out where my negative goes. So now you need to take a few minutes, do these practice examples, and then check back to see that you got them right. Here are the examples to the practice examples at the bottom of the page. Once you finish with these, there will be more practice in Canvas later on for you to complete. I hope this was helpful, and I will get back to you for Objective 2 later.